I will repeat again. Okay, so good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. So a very warm welcome from Myanmar TESOL, and thank you very much to you all. And we are very much pleased, and we are delighted, and we are honored to have a special speaker today. And because now it's December, and at the end of the year, and these webinars, these workshops, this training, we take it as a Christmas gift to you all. This is a special gift from Myanmar TESOL to all the teachers. And we are very happy that we are here together as teachers working towards professional development. And as teachers, as colleagues, I hope that we'll be able to do things better together for the better community and for better education for the younger generation and for ourselves as well. So before we go on, I'd like to talk a bit about the housekeeping here. Because this is the Zoom meeting, and it will take about 2 hours, okay, plus minus, and there will be a question and answer session at the end of the event, and the whole session will be recorded, and that's why we request you to stay mute. And you can write questions and comments in the chat box, but there will be a Q&A session at the end. And if we have time, you'll have chances to have your mic on and ask the questions depending on the time. And the video recording will be uploaded on YouTube when the video is ready. And there will be an evaluation form. We will send it out in the chat box towards the end of the session. And you can write the takeaways from the session, and you can write questions if you have any further questions that you want to address to the speaker. And when you are writing the evaluation form, when you're filling it in, may we request you to write your name and email addresses in the correct spelling, because when we send out the email, if the email addresses are not in the correct spelling, it's we cannot send them out. And certificates. Okay, so we will send out the certificate for each event for every day. So for example, for today, there will be a certificate, and we will send it out in 1 week's time. This training for the certificate of completion, we will send it out at the end of when we have finished all the 4 days to all who have completed the 4-day training. So that's for the housekeeping. So let me introduce you to our special speaker today, Dr. Kinkin E. Okay, some of you might have read about her bio in the Facebook page, but let me read a bit about herself, because in fact, okay, she has got quite a long list of qualifications and and all the honors. So I may not be able to cover everything, but I will try to read out as much as I can. So firstly, she gained her BA English degree and then postgraduate diploma in ELT from Yangon University from Myanmar. Then for her Master Applied Linguistics, she got it from University of Brunei Darussalam. And for her PhD, National University of in Singapore. And okay, you can guess how long she has taught. She has got over 38 years of teaching and training in English language and communication and TESOL related subjects to the undergraduate students and postgraduate students in higher education institutions in Myanmar, in Malaysia, and in private sector, in public sectors. And she has also done quite a wide extensive publication. She has done research on contact linguistics, world Englishes, and of learners' first language and technology, quite a range of topics. And she has done 10 book chapters and 2 journal articles. And she has presented in several international conferences, and she has been doing training for research, and she has been she is currently supervising PhD and master students as a principal supervisor at Swinburne Sarawak University. And she has also trained workplace communication in Cebu, Malaysia Municipal Council. And now, okay, she is she is an associate dean at Swinburne University of Technology campus, and she has been doing research on curriculum enhancement and accreditation. So this is very brief information about Dr. Kim Ki, and we are delighted to have her as a guest speaker for us. And I'm sure that there will be quite a lot for us to learn from her, okay, today and in the next 3 modules. So without further ado, may I hand over the floor to Dr. Kim Ki. So teacher, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for your kind words, teacher May. Okay, before I start, I would just like to say thank you to all for your interest in my seminar. And I would just like to give my scope of this seminar, because as you all know, it is not possible for me to cover everything. And this is limited to the research writing only. And that seminar is not going to include, training on the research methodology. I can give you is only the guideline on writing these different chapters. I would just like to clear to you. And when I look at your, you can say, registration form, and I look at some question, and I try to, you can say, include some, trying to answer some of the question which is relevant to the scope that we have. I hope that it is okay for you guys, for you. Okay, now one thing that I would just like to highlight is that we have international students, international participants, and I'm using English only. And if I'm speaking really fast, that is quite normal for me. Just please let me know, raise your hand or something like that so that I can slow down. I hope that I will be able to start right now. Okay, let me just share my screen first. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yes. Now here, just, okay. Now, when I talk about research writing, big picture, so I can that you include. The first one is, what does research writing mean to you? The second one is exploring the field, conducting literature research. The third would be literature and language used, and research problem statement, writing methodology section or chapter, writing research, writing discussion and abstract as a tool for success, writing introduction section or chapter. I write it in such a way, I'm not going to go through according to the order of the chapter in an article or your dissertation or thesis. What I'm going is to what the steps that we take in writing, say, reporting our research. Okay. Now, let me move to the next slide. Okay. Now, right, we do something. We also need to know why we are doing it. Doing research. Okay. The answer is here. Very simple, but we trying to solve a mystery, to know how something works or why something happened. Right? In other words, you want to answer a question that you and others have about. That is our research. In that case, what is next? Okay. You have your reason for doing research, and after that, after doing your research, next. Okay. Nanda Linton is raising her hand. Is that you? Okay. Now.
Sorry, teacher. I just can't hear voice clearly because I think there is some problem, connection problem.
Okay. Let me just stop sharing it first. Okay. Now, is the problem with my connection?
Yes, teacher, I think so. When there is a screen sharing, the internet connection consuming it's higher than ever. That's why, because of the connection, your sound is quite cracking. So we can't hear well.
Okay, now let me just, let me just try to check it.
So what about
Why?
what
Why?
about either the same or me? Okay, one of us handle the screen and you just talk. Will it be okay? So will it be solve the problem?
Yes, teacher, I will try.
Yeah. So have you got the PowerPoint slides?
I have it, teacher.
Okay, now let me share it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, teacher, I think the same we share the screen so that you will not be able to consume a lot of data on your side.
Who?
Connection.
You will be doing that for me? Is it? Okay, now can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes,
Well
teacher.
enough, teacher.
Huh? Okay. Now let me just talk about it, okay? After conducting the research, what you need to do next is present what you have learned from research. Okay? It's as important as performing the research, and the research paper or article or thesis or dissertation is one of the most popular effective ways of presenting your result. Now, can you hear me well now? Still
Not
breaking?
very well. Not very well. Yeah.
Not very.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing I can do. Okay.
Yeah.
Like what you said. Now, I will stop sharing it.
Yes. And maybe they can share the screen and you just read from the what is sharing.
One thing that, what I can do. Okay, I will send it to the Zen.
Yes,
My
please.
slide.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll try. Yeah. We'll try.
Yeah, I have the PDF version
Or
of it.
else.
May I?
No, not PDF version. Mine is PowerPoint slide. Okay, let me just try to. No.
Now it's quite okay. When you are not sharing the screen, your voice is quite clear. But when you are sharing the screen, your voice starts.
Okay, now I think the best bet is let me just share it through the messenger because something is not right here. Okay, then I think life will be easier. Just wait for. Okay, just. Okay. Now I think the same. I will just send it to you via email. Let me close it first.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, can you please start over again? I'm so sorry, Mama, because the first part is an important part and we missed the first part and we want to hear.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, now let me just send it, the PowerPoint slide itself. Okay. Because the file size may be big. Okay. Just hopefully it works. Okay, I'm sending it right now. Okay, now. Okay. Got it right now?
Yeah, I got it right now. I'll download it right away.
Okay. Just start with research writing. Only after we finish with that, we can continue with lit review. because our internet connection, it's not stable, especially at night. Okay. Sorry for the problems. Okay. Now just let me start with that. Okay. Okay. Firstly, I would just in the beginning, for those who are late as well, what I would like to cover, it's not possible for me to cover everything within these 4 Saturdays. And looking at the question that are raised in the registration form, okay, I would just like to state very clearly what we are going to include. Okay, I'm going to cover only writing a research paper or dissertation or thesis, but I'm not going to include training on research methodology. Okay, and I'm not going to look at writing per se as well. But what we are going to look at is even you can say talking about writing, I cannot include everything in detail. What I can give is the guideline, and we will distribute some kind of document that I collected. That's why I hope that you are fine with that as well. Okay. Is it clear now? Okay, now what are we looking at? Now, the first one is, what does research writing mean to you? Because actually the thing here is that, yeah, only, and the second one here is, that is what we are going to talk about. Okay, exploring the field, conducting literature research, and after that, literature review and language use. And after that, we're going to talk about research problem statement and writing methodology section or chapter. And after that, writing finding and results, and writing discussion and conclusion. Only after that we have abstract as a tool to success. And finally, about the writing, you can say introduction chapter. Okay, why you may notice that it's not in the order of the you can say research thesis or article itself, but the way that I order is according to the step that we are going to take. Now, let's look at the question. The first one is, why would you like to do research? Okay, now, the reason is as simple as that. We would try to solve a mystery. We would like to know how something works and why something happened. In other words, you want to answer a question that you and other people have about the world. Now, after conducting the research, what is next? Now, you must present what you have learned from your research, and this is as important as performing your research, conducting research. And research paper or article or the thesis or dissertation is one of the most popular, effective ways of presenting your research. Okay, results of your research. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Now, here, before, I think, then when you take the journey of research, the first journey to start, the first journey that you need to take is write a research proposal, right? To present your research topic, main research question, sub-questions, and working thesis to get admitted to the postgraduate research program or to get the scholarship. I'm trying to answer the questions some people raise, okay? Now, the step that you need to take to write a research proposal, the first one, very important one, is choosing a topic. The second step is develop or formulate research question. The third one is develop a working thesis. And finally, write a proposal. Okay, so in this case, let's move to the next slide. When we choose a topic, that topic must be the one that interests you. Why? If you're applying for master by research or PhD, right? That research will be in your head, in your mind, day and night. If it is MA for 2 years, if it is PhD, at least 3 years, right? That if you're not interested in that, that will torture you day and night. So it must be the topic that you are really interested in. Now, another one is that we need to think about what we mean by a good research paper, research thesis, or dissertation, because it provides, number one, focused, in-depth information and analysis. So how do we choose a topic? The first one is because you have some idea. Okay, that's why you just brainstorm and identify all the potential ideas. Okay, now once you have already come up with potential ideas, you pick and choose certain ideas, right, to explore further to get potential topic. Okay, for example, if you are interested in, for example, online learning, okay, right, think about all the possible idea about online learning, right? Are you interested in the, you can say, the tool used in online learning, or whether you're interested in student performance, or whether you're interested in the professional development of the teacher? You're just trying to identify all the potential ideas. Okay, after that, you choose some idea that really interests you and explore further to get potential topic. But even when you get a potential topic, you are to narrow the topic that will help you conduct focused and in-depth research. Okay, so your research topic must be focused. Okay, now when you continue with narrowing your topic, why do you need to narrow your topic? It's essential to make your topic manageable. How do we do that? Okay, right, research, right, the problem with all the researcher, new researcher, student researcher, is writing. Like, since when you are trying to, you can say, prepare for yourself to write a research proposal, in the process of narrowing your topic, first thing, you explore your topic in writing. Just because actually when you identify the potential ideas and, explore further everything, right? This is when I think whatever you have in mind, write it without a stop. Free writing, okay? You also conduct preliminary research, right? We call it exploratory reading. You read through newspapers, articles, blog, and online discussion group, right? Which discuss your topic of interest. And what you need to do, you can also discuss both the topic and research with others in that group or elsewhere. Okay. Now, after through free writing and conduct the exploratory reading and discussion with others, you need to determine what exactly you want to learn about it and what you want to say about it. You need to determine it so that you will be narrow your topic. I will just give my example. It's not research proposal per se, but when I was working on my international conference, because at that time we had just started the blended learning. We are preparing for the blended learning in the university. I would like to talk about blended learning. When I look around the faculty, the staff members' attitude differ. Some of them like it. Some who are really afraid of using technology, they do not like it. There are some people who do not like change it, something like that. That's why I would like to figure about it. So I think I just trying to look, all these, because at that time it's very early. That's why papers on blended learnings are very limited. Okay, that's why I think. But what I'm really interested in is about the attitude of the faculty member. That is the kind of problem or issue that we were facing at that time. Okay, move to the next one, please. Here, because actually the thing here is that if you, after narrowing the topic, you are to formulate a research question. Okay, why? By formulating a research question, right, you are allowed, you can set a goal for your research, right? But you must remember, a research question is substantial enough to form the guiding principle of your paper or your research. at the same time, it's focused enough to guide your research as well, right? Because you still remember, I asked you, right? Because you are look for the potential ideas and etc., right? And then you need to pick and choose and narrow the, you can say, narrow the topic, right? Now, here in this case, right, some people, they come up with a question, but which is not researchable. Why? Because a strong research question requires you to find information, right? If you can find the information just by looking at other people's article, there is no point. You need to put together. This research question will enable you to put together different pieces of information and interpret them and figure out what you think. Okay. Okay. Please, the next. Now, here in this case, how you can formulate a research question? Because you have free writing, right? You review or free writing, you skim through the books, article, and website, and the all these books, right? Exploratory reading, you list the question that you have. And what you need to do is, like brainstorming, you include all the question. Some question can be simple factual question, and some more complex question that would require analysis and interpretation. For simple factual question, you might need to conduct the research. You already had answer. This cannot be your research question, but there may be some complex question, but that can be answered only through the information, collection, analysis, and interpretation. So in that case, these are the kind of questions that you may want to use. And if you have more than one, think about it. You need to determine your main question. That is the primary focus of your paper. And several other sub-questions, right, that you will need to research to answer your main question. What does it mean? These sub-questions will enable you to be able to answer the main research question. Okay, clear now? Okay, so I think through your preparation, you will be able to come up with some kind of question. Now, another one here is, you may remember that you are to construct a working thesis. What do we mean by working thesis? It concisely states a writer's initial answer to your main research question. Okay. This working thesis expresses a debatable idea. That means, idea which just, you can say, requires the debate or claim that you have to prove through your research. Okay, working thesis, your initial answer or potential answer to the research question. But you must remember, some people are really worried that, okay, you have the thesis, okay, you have the working thesis, and you think that you must do research to prove that the working thesis is correct. It's not that. As the name suggests, the working thesis is subject to change. What does it mean? When you really carry out research, or when you learn more about your topic, you may change your thinking of your research finding as well. That's why I think everything is change. That is the, you can say journey that you must go through. Now, but here, even though it is subject to change, let your working thesis serve as a guide to your research, but do not afraid to modify it based on what you learn. Okay, next slide. Now, when we are, next slide, please. Okay, now here is the example, but it is not the, you can say, research proposal. I would just like to show it to you. The example or research question, right? Objective of the study, that is your topic, right? And if you look at the research question, there are two questions. What is the relationship between parenting style and learner performance physics? What is the relationship between parental support and learner performance in physics? Okay, Now, we have two research questions, and the working thesis here comes in the form of hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, there is no significant relationship between parenting style and learner performance in physics. There is no significant relationship between parental support and learner performance in physics. These are the potential answer or the initial answer, right? So I think this is what I mean by working thesis. Now, the next slide. Now, we have already, I have already explained how to choose a topic and, research question and working thesis. Now, it's time for you to write a research proposal. That's why you need to know the components of the research proposal. Each and every university has their own unique, you can say, way of asking the students to write the research proposal. But what I'm giving you is the common one, but okay, there may be some, you can say, option. Now, the first one is the title. The second one is introduction. The third one is literature review. And the fourth one is aims and objectives of the proposed research and methodology. And another one is scope of your research. And finally, outline and timeline. Okay, normally for the research proposal, it depends, okay? If it is, they have their own word limits. They have the own word limit. If you are applying for the scholarship, they may require you to write a research proposal of about 5,000 words. If you are using the double spacing, it will be about 20 pages, okay? Because one page is 250 words. Okay, if you're applying for only for the candidature, some university even may not require you to write that much, because this research proposal will be, you can say, improved fast in the very first year of the candidature. That's why it depends, okay? But still, now let me now the title, it is a kind of clear and concise headline that tells your reader what your research proposal is about at a first glance. I'm going to talk about the title when I talk about research writing itself, because I would just like to be very brief and quick. Now, whenever you write introduction, please remember in the research proposal, it is not chapter, they are section, different section. We have a title page where you put down the title and your name, okay? For introduction, your introduction should start with a hook to capture or captivate the attention of the reader. That means the scholarship, you can say, committee. And then organize your thoughts in a logical and organized manner. How do we organize it? Right? You include the background information in the introduction and explain why you believe a research question is worth exploring. And if you have space, you can also include the method that you're going to use in your proposed research, okay? And in literature review, you cannot include all the literature review like your research dissertation, because it's proposal and you haven't done much research yet. So your literature review is an overview of the most significant studies in your field, which is also related to your proposed research. But remember, justifying the significance, because actually you need to show that your research question is worth exploring. That's why you need to justify or explain why your research is significant through evidence and statistical data. And at the same time, you also include existing research and identify the gaps in the field and how your proposed research can contribute to the respective research field, something like that, okay? Now, here in this case, because I'm going to talk about it in detail, because when we write it, even though the length may differ between, because actually differ, but it's more or less the main, you can say, philosophy behind writing these chapters or these sections are more or less the same thing, okay? Now, for aims and objective, your research aim is the overall outcome of your proposed research, whereas the objectives, okay, are narrower and more focused, okay, than the aims, okay? And if possible, okay, let's say if there are altogether 4 objectives, please justify each objective, okay? Now, after aims and objective of the study, because actually in the literature review, you highlight why this research is needed. That's why then move on with your aims and objective of the study and the methodology. Okay, now, just let me tell you, because this is your proposal, you haven't conducted the research yet. So even though literature review may be written in past simple or present perfect, because the rest, introduction and methodology, you haven't done it. That's why it should be in the future tenses. Okay. So now when you, under the methodology, what you can include is method and equipment of data collection and data analysis, also sampling technique. And if your research involved collecting data from human participants, let's say if the human participants are underage or something like that, then in that case, it is better for you to include the ethical concerns and how you are going to handle it, how you are going to get the approval so that you are not going to violate that kind of human research ethics. Okay. And whatever you do, okay, now the one important, you can say, philosophy behind research is that research is choices that you make. Please remember, right? Whether you choose literature, relevant literature or whatever, or even the objectives and everything, you must remember what choice that you make, you need to justify or explain why you choose that. For example, when you talk about method, you said you're going to use qualitative method, qualitative approach. Then you need to explain, justify why you choose qualitative approach. Even among the qualitative approach, let's say if you're using when you're using whatever method of collection that you use, you need to justify why you choose that methods or tools. Okay, now the next one here is scope of your research. Now here in this case, because actually it's not possible for you to cover, that's why you need to state very, for example, when you are looking at parental involvement in the student performance, right, it's only in subject physics. But again, what you need to do is need to show your delimitation. That means what your research covers. For example, it is not possible for you to collect data. Let's say, even if you say that you are from, you can say Philippines, or you are going to collect data in Philippines or India or Indonesia. It is not possible for you to collect data from all people from all over the country. Now, you need to have the kind of context, right? That's why you can say that you can cover only, right? What we are doing is we need to say that you're going to collect data on a certain city or town or certain you can say school, but you make choices, then you need to explain, justify why you choose that specific local context, something like that. Okay, now by including the scope of your research, you show that you have given limitation a thought, and that enable you, that makes your proposal strong and authentic and workable as well. Now, the last one is, you can say outline and timeline. Now, when you look at it here, you can see very clearly there are two, right? Outline and timeline. The first one is you can say outline of your proposed research thesis. Okay, starting with title, introduction, etc. Okay, you have that kind of table of content, something like that for you provide the outline. For example, chapter 1, introduction, etc. Okay, you include everything. If you haven't conducted research, that is the outline. Another one is timeline, because you need to convince to the scholarship committee members that your research is worth exploring. So I think you use the literature review to identify the gaps in the field, and there is your research question is worth exploring, right? That is one part. But the thing is, they will also like to look at whether you will be able to conduct the research effectively. So what you need to, how do you need to improve, prove that? you include the timeline of each stage of research. For example, first stage can be conducting literature review and writing literature review, for example. But you need to include timeline. For example, you plan to go into that university in 2024 March, for example, your intake. So once you are accepted, maybe between March and, for example, March and how many months you think about it, right? Within the time reviewing literature, for example, right? That's why you need to include the timeline of each stage of research, right? What would you like to show? You show that your proposed research is workable and feasible within the timeline, because you need to put down so that within 2.5 years' time, you have already finished the first half of your research thesis, something like that. You include timeline, right? Timeline of each stage to prove to the scholarship committee that your research is workable and you are capable of accomplishing that as well. Thank you. Okay, next slide. I think this is quiz time, because what we have done so far is about, you can say, writing research proposal. So okay, teacher Dezin, could you please help me with the quiz?
Yes, Chair. I'm relaunching.
I would just mute it first.
Salut, sabi sa lado. Natin nag-isa kami niya. Nhưng của Hà Nội. Cái này thì đâu?
Together 3 questions now. Let me see how many have. Okay.
82% of the candidates answered already, Che. Do you want me to end the poll?
I think so. Yeah.
So I will share the result.
Okay.
Okay, may I stop share the result?
Yes, please. Let's continue with what we needed to. I think we have already got the correct answer, right? Okay, I think what I can do. Okay. Let's continue, okay? Now, let's look at research writing, okay? Now, when we are writing, right, we have several different steps. The first one is, again, choosing a topic. Now, we have already talked about it. We are to brainstorm to narrow the focus, and we need to ask a specific research question. And you need to, the question must be broad, open-ended question. That means it's not, you cannot answer it with yes, no answer. It is an open question. And you also propose a possible answer or a working thesis, right? Now, another plan is that one, you have chosen the topic, you plan and schedule time to research and write, right? Like in the research proposal, you include the timeline of each stage of your research, right? That's why you are to first plan your researching and writing schedule. What does it mean? What time you're going to write, literature review, etc. Now, another one is very important. Plan the resources and organizational tools, right? You can use flow charts, calendar, and checklist. I'm not quite sure whether I include that, but you can use Gantt chart for the planning of the organization of your research. Now, another one is, yes, after planning and schedule time to research and write, this is when you can conduct research. You need to plan it earlier because there may be cases that research journey is not always smooth. Okay? Sometimes there may be a lot of delays and things like that. That's why you need to think about all the possible problems. Okay? Okay. Later, we're going to talk about it, okay? Now, another one is conducting research, right? It can be you are collecting the data on the primary sources through survey, in-person interview, and sometimes historical document. Or your data may be secondary sources like biography, literary reviews, or magazine articles. Okay? Now, after you have conduct the research, organize research and ideas, right? You organize your finding and decide which source to cite in your paper, evaluate the evidence you have collected and determine whether it supports your thesis or the focus of your paper, and you adjust your thesis or conduct additional research to ensure that your thesis is well supported. Here it's a bit confusing, but let's move so that when we are talking about writing different chapters, you will be able to see what organizing your research and ideas, as you can say, involve. Okay, now another one is draft your paper. Draft your paper means because you have already got the finding, right? That's why you combine your research finding with your critical analysis of the result in a rough draft. You incorporate source material into your paper and discuss each source thoughtfully in relation to your thesis or purpose statement. Okay? Here, you must remember you need to use standard conventions for citing sources in order to avoid plagiarism. Standard conventions means Now, one example would be, right, there's some terminology that people in your area knows, but when you are writing it, right, you need to give the definition of the terminology. You cannot use acronym or abbreviation in the first, when you are, you can say, when you mention it for the first time, something like that. That is one kind of standard conventions. And your respected university may have their own, you can say, referencing style. Okay, I will talk about these referencing to cite the sources. Okay, that's why I will talk about it. After you have draft your paper, what you need to do is you revise and edit your paper. Okay, you reorganize. Sometimes that may involve reorganizing your paper structure or revise for unity and cohesion, right? Your thesis must have logical and natural flows. Now, edit your papers for proper spelling, grammar, punctuation, mechanics, and formatting. Now, I would just like to talk about this, revise and edit your paper. Okay, when I was doing my master, right, I finished my thesis earlier on, but I was not happy with my organization. I feel that, when I discuss the results, right, results and finding, I feel that it is quite repetitive. But I couldn't think of how to organize it. My supervisor was happy with that, and he asked me to just take a rest until, the scholarship is, that. But whatever it is, I was not happy. That's why I have two supervisors. I asked for the advice of my first supervisor, and he also thought it's repetitive. So we sat down together and thought about it, and finally he gave me the as you can say answer, because at that time my research is on you can say learning of Malay as a foreign language by Myanmar people. Okay, so what I did was I have the kind of contrastive analysis of Myanmar and Malay, and after that we have the contrastive analysis and error analysis chapter. Okay, so I think what my supervisor said is that, what if I just follow the, you can say, structure of that, once I got the structure of the contrastive analysis, we can use the error analysis chapter, reorganize it. Is that okay? I got the idea and I work on it. I change the whole structure and move around, but I finish it within 1 day. What I'm saying is that sometimes we still, at the end of this, right, research, we still need to reorganize it. So in that case, this is what you need to do. Okay, the next slide, please. Now when you have already talked about the step in the research writing, now what we are talking about, okay, research writing now. Now, if we look at the research paper, whether it is dissertation or thesis or paper, here are the compulsory component. The first one is a title, followed by the abstract, that is in order. Okay, after that we have the introduction, after that we have the literature review, and after that we have the methodology, and after that we have finding and result, and finally we have discussion and conclusion. These are the elements. Now let's look at each. And okay, the first one is title. Now with the title is very important. Titles allow the readers to identify the purpose and topic of the paper. This is very important because actually the thing here is that, right, with regard to length, different sources give me different, as you can say, length. First, some of them say that within 3 to 5 words is the best. Okay, some source said it's between 10 and 12 words, but some said no more than 20 words. Okay, now according to Quantifying Help, they collected data and they come up with the they look at it for all these papers between 2016 and 2021, and they come up with a finding that the median of the length of the title is 14 words. It's between 11 and 18 with the minimum 2 words only. And this is Bahasa Malay, History, Grammar, and Context. That is the title of my PhD thesis. Okay. It totally reflects, because my topic is Bahasa Malay, but I'm looking at the 3 aspects of Bahasa Malay. I look at the historical development of that variety, and I look at the grammar and the context linguistic feature. Okay, so I think Now, what are the attributes of title? The first one, it must be descriptive, it must be direct, it must be accurate, proper, interesting, concise, precise, unique, and it should not be misleading. And keep it as short as possible, right? So that it's easier. Now, the next one is that because whenever you look for the resources, especially when you are conducting the literature review, you will notice that, right? That's why I think, because for the timing, when we are looking for the sources, we do it online. So what you need to do is that whenever you create a title of your research, make the first 60 characters. I'm not telling 60 words, 60 characters, but because when we are looking for the sources online, the first 60 chapter is the one that are visible in online search. You make that first 60 characters meaningful and important so that people you can say visible to everyone. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, after looking about it, title, but I would just like to talk about the chapter structure. Okay, chapter structure. Regardless, any chapter, use a structure that persuades the reader of your argument. Okay, now when you look at it in any essay or anything like that, we always have 3 parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. Okay, that is what we need to include. Now, I would just like to suggest you that this is just, for me, if it is the research dissertation, we have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. For me, this is my system. You can choose not to use, but what I always do is, let's say chapter 1, introduction, right? 1.0 introduction. Starting from body, I will put down, let's say chapter 1, the first digit is for chapter, it refers to chapter, and after that, the body start with 1.1, something like that. Okay, and always include conclusion. Now, what do we include? Introduction. An introduction normally indicate the chapter's argument or key message. Okay, this is their main function. Even in now, what about the body of the chapter? It clearly addresses part of the thesis, overall research question or aims. I would just now, another one is the main function of the conclusion is to sum up the chapter's contribution to the thesis and show the links to the next chapter. Now, let me wait for a while, okay? Please remember, whatever chapter that you write, it must be connected to your research topic or research question, okay? Now, let's say when you're talking about introduction, right? If not introduction, for example, even when you talk about literature review or your, you can say literature review or methodology session, what you need to do is you state your research question. And because, or you can say that this research study involves or looks at, right, or explore parental involvement in, you can say their children performance in education, for example, right? You just relate it and you state that as such, you are looking at the literature related to, you can say, parental involvement, something like that. You link it with the research topic or research question. Is that clear? Okay, please, next slide. So the same thing with methodology as well. Okay, now what you need to do is that introduction include an overview of how the chapter contribute to your thesis or your research question by providing the background and context and issue and debate. Now, you must remember that it works well to explain how the chapter answers or contribute to the overall research question so that the reader will be reminded of your thesis purpose and understand why this chapter is relevant to it. Please remember, always link each and every chapter to your research question, your research topic. Okay, now, and this, right, and you also include the chapter argument. Let's say, for example, literature review, because your research is this and that, and you're looking at this literature review, and and what is your purpose? What is your argument? You put down there, right? And you also outline the chapter so that the reader can know what they can expect in the following part of that chapter itself. Okay. Yes. Now the next one here is what you need to do is in terms of organization, right? When you organize it, carefully consider in which order you will present your information. Ask yourself the following question, for example. Would it make your analysis clearer to organize your chapter by themes rather than chronologically? Okay, I will talk about themes later. Okay, let's say, another question is, if you were demonstrating why a particular case study contradicts existing theoretical literature, would it be better to organize the chapter into themes and show how the case study relate to the literature in respect to each theme, rather than having a dense literature review at the beginning of the chapter? Okay, I'm just trying to give you the example. Okay, now, is a brief review, or another question that you can raise is that, if a brief review at the beginning of chapter necessary and sufficient to establish the key ideas that the chapter analysis developed? Okay, normally for me, I would say that a brief review at the beginning of the chapter is always necessary. Okay, because actually then people will know what it's about. Now, here it is about the theme just I mentioned, right? Now, for those who would like to work on the parental involvement. So when you look at the literature, the theme come up is, the first one is, the topic is parental involvement in student education. Sorry, their children education. The first theme came up with family engagement. The second theme came up with the communication with families or among families and school. The third thing will be collaboration among parents and teacher. The fourth one may be parent involvement with learning at home. The last one would be parent involvement in school. These are the kind of themes that are involved in parental involvement in education. That's why when you would like to do research on parental involvement, maybe your literature review or anything like that, maybe you can arrange according to the emergent theme. Okay? That is one example of how you organize. Now, another one is about body of the chapter. Okay. Now, here in this case, because in the introduction, as I mentioned to you, you link what the chapter is about with your research question, right? And you also outline your message. What are you going to include? Then here, in the body of the chapter, you develop the key message stated briefly in your introduction, logically and persuasively. Okay? Now, so that it is convincing why the research is needed, right? Why the result is, you can say, reliable and valid, etc. Now, sections and ideas are in such order, in such a way that a persuasive and clear argument could be developed. At the end of the day, when you write a research, right, you persuade your reader and you provide the clear argument as to your research answer, how valid and how reliable your answers are to your research question. Now, here in this case, in the body, please remember that use your opening paragraph of the body of the chapter to a new section to introduce the key idea that will be developed, so that your readers do not get lost or are left wondering how the ideas build on what is already covered. Now, another one is, again, how you connect the different section or paper is especially important, very important in a long piece of writing like a paper or dissertation. Okay, that's why I think what you must remember, opening paragraph always introduce the key idea, and the following paragraph normally develop these key ideas. Okay, now it's the same philosophy, right? Now, how again, when you write paragraph, different paragraphs need to be connected as well. Okay, in terms of idea, in terms of language as well. Now, let's look at it here for paragraphing. Here, now, paragraphing techniques are essential to develop a persuasive and coherent argument within your chapter. Please remember, each paragraph needs to present only one main idea. Okay, this is a very basic in writing. right? You have the one main idea that is indicated through a topic sentence. That topic sentence can occur in the beginning of the paragraph or the last, or in some cases in the middle. Anyway, it doesn't matter. A topic sentence that indicate the main idea of the paragraph and supporting evidence. This can answer the WH, who, when, where, why, etc. Plus, you need to have a final sentence that might summarize that idea. But don't forget, emphasize the significance, but draw a conclusion, but don't forget that create a link to the next idea. Remember, there should be a link between different paragraphs, right? That's why the first sentence indicate a main idea, and the following sentence provide the supporting evidence, and the last sentence summarize the idea, emphasize the significance, draw a conclusion, but don't forget to create a link to the next idea so that each and every paragraph is connected well. Now, another way in terms of the idea, okay? Another one is that you can also use language that shows the connection between ideas. Okay, now, so that when you develop the chapter flow and cohesion, language is also important. Okay, how do we do that? The next slide. Okay, when you say flow, that's why let's look at the example here. The flow enables your reader to follow your line of discussion. See how you are moving your discussion from one topic to the next in developing your overall point of view. So in that case, as I mentioned to you, even if you write different paragraphs, with each paragraph one main idea, all these paragraphs should be properly linked to ensure coherence. Now, what are these coherence strategies? The first one is repetition. Repeated word or phrase or idea so that they are linked. The second one is summarizing. And the third one is the question and answer strategy. I'm just giving three strategies. Let's look at the example of each strategy. The first one is repetition. For example, if you look at, okay, now I think one is missing, the very first one. Richard, please click more. Okay, no. Oh, no. The last sentence. Okay, the first here. If you look at it here, in the previous paragraph, the last sentence says the nature of the ceremonial rite performed at this initiation ceremony is particularly important. Okay, that is the last sentence. All right. Now, if you look at it here, it's about the ceremonial rite. That's why in the next paragraph, the first sentence, repeat that word. The ceremonial rites organized around three basic activities. Now, you can see what I mean by repetition. In the next one, example, X analysis provide useful insight into the existing power relations between the army and the government at that time. Now, that is the last sentence. It's about, as you can say, power relations. Now, if you look at the first sentence of the next paragraph, however, the power relations embedded in the social structure may be more important in explaining causes of them. Okay, now you can see very clearly how we can use the repetition to link between different paragraphs. Okay, the next slide, another example of summarizing, right? If you look at it here, in the previous paragraph, the content is lengthy discussion of teaching method in high school and university. In the next paragraph, okay, you start with summarizing what the previous paragraph said. Because of these differences in teaching method, that is the summary of the previous paragraph. Then we have another one, university do this and that. Now another one is question and answer strategy to make this you can say reader more interested in what you're saying. For example, in the first paragraph, in the last sentence, why did the plan fail? Now, in the first sentence of the second paragraph, X in his analysis suggests three major reasons. Okay, the last sentence end with the question, and the answer to this the answer to this question is in the first sentence of the second paragraph. Okay, now I have already told you about three strategy. Now, another one is about cohesion. Okay, Do you still remember? We can use the language, right, to link between the sentences or paragraph. Now, here in this case, we can use words and phrases, right, to control and order the logic between a paragraph's argument. Okay, these words, right, using words and phrases to clarify the connection between ideas, and these words are known as signposting or transition words or whatever. Now they show the time relationship, adding information, logical relationship, drawing conclusion, clarification of previously stated idea, introducing a contrasting and qualifying idea, and providing example. In the next slide, I give the example. I'm not just reading out it. I would allow you to read one after another. And most of you, I think, know about it very well. Okay, I'm quite sure. Okay, next slide, please. You will be given the PowerPoint slides, PDF copy of the PowerPoint slides, but for the time, please pay attention to this. This is what about drawing conclusion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, thank you very much. I think we have, okay. Let me move to the next slide. We're going to talk about, as I mentioned to you, I'm not going to follow the order of the chapter in the dissertation, but I'm going to follow according to what we do. Okay. Thank you. I think, teacher is in.
Yes,
Could
Jen.
you please, another slide? Yeah.
The PowerPoint slide is already gone in that PowerPoint, yeah?
Which one? Another one is literature review.
Yes, I have
I
another
send you
file.
two.
Yes.
Okay. I hope I can finish only, I think, conducting literature review. Okay. Writing literature review is not possible. Okay, let me just. Okay. Now, when we look at literature review, I would like to divide it into two. One is conducting literature review, and the other one is writing. Okay. Now, we would say that conducting literature review is, as you can say, something like exploring the field. Now, what we are looking at, we are looking at all these question, and we are looking at types of literature review and conducting a literature review, searching and reading, and finally writing literature review. I'm not quite sure whether I can finish conducting literature review. Now, the first question is, what is a literature review? Second question, what are uses of a literature review? Why do we have to review literature? Okay, these are the questions that we have. Now, the first question that I have, right, I would like you to give your answer. What is literature review in your opinion? There is no right or wrong answer. Share your answer with us in 1 minute through chat box in your chat box. Okay, through the chat box, not in person. Okay, chat box. Just 1 minute. Okay, you just share with the group. Okay, not quite sure whether I can. Okay, to relate our research into existing secondary data for our topic, reviewing facts and literary usage. Let me look at time. Teacher, once 1 minute is up, then we will move, okay?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Okay. Okay, now let's look at it here. Thank you very much for all your answer. And all your answer reflect that you understand, if it is not fully, you understand the function of literature review itself. Okay, now let's look at first thing, instead of answering what literature review, I would say what literature review is not. Okay, please remember that it is not a simple summary of papers related to your research. Okay. Now, the second one here is your literature review is not a review of papers that are cherry-picked, mean the whatever you like, that support your argument. Okay. Another one, literature review is not lots of quotes which may or may not be linked together. Okay, because sometimes you can see some literature review, just a summary of paper. That's why they are not literature review. Then what is literature review? Okay, now if you look at it here, move on. Okay, we are looking at, it is, the description, summary, synthesis, and critical evaluation of a published body of knowledge to show or to establish your understanding and development of the selected topic for research. Please remember, you describe, you summarize, but it does not stop there. You synthesize and you critically evaluate it. Okay, now let's move on what we mean by that. When we say knowledge in the field, okay, it is related to literature review, right? The first one is the primary studies that researcher conduct and publish, right? You look for the articles and research dissertation, okay? Now, the second one is reviews of those studies that summarize and offer new interpretation built from and often extending beyond the primary studies. Because sometimes, some of the, you can say research writer, they write a review of not only one article, okay, review of research papers or articles or research study, right, conducted on one topic. So I think some people write that way as well. Now, another one is perception, conclusion, opinions, and interpretation that are shared informally. Let me give you example. For example, when you attend an international conference, you meet with different people, and some of them are authorities in the field. And then you listen to them, right, during the lunch break or refreshment break, then you share idea. These are informal sharing, right? You learn about the perception, conclusions, etc. All these are, you can say, body of knowledge. Now, what are the uses of literature review? The first one is literature review discusses previous research on topic. Now, when you are conducting a research project, it can be a part of larger report or research project. Now, another one is like what I said, when you're writing a research grant proposal or your proposal for the scholarship, it can be a part of that proposal. It can be a part of thesis or dissertation. And the last one, it can be a standalone publication published separately in a scholarly journal or even as a monograph as in annual review you can journals. One example will be annual review of linguistic journal, annual review of financial economics, for example. Okay, now let's another activity. Why a literature review? Why do we need to review the literature? Okay, please share with us in a, as you can say, in the chat box, okay? Time start now, 1 minute. Once 1 minute is up, please
Yes, Chair.
Start the next slide. Okay. To collect data. You can share in the group chat to check if our research topic is already discussed or not, to check if it's related to. Okay. Okay. Now let's look at it here. Thank you very much for your answer. Just by looking through your answer, you have some understanding. Some they have even very developed one. Okay, now let's look at it here. Now, why a literature review? Do you still remember, right, that, even before research, before writing your research proposal, right, or even now, before you carry out your research, right, you have that literature review to understand what is currently known about a topic, to find what knowledge and ideas have been established on a topic. For example, just now when I talk about parental involvement, when you look for your literature, you find out that parental involvement is in different subjects. Sometimes it's a content subject like physics, chemistry, etc. In some cases, it's language-related subjects, something like Chinese, English, etc. To find what knowledge and ideas have been established on a topic. Another one is to provide a solid background for research investigation. Before you carry out research, you do not know anything about that topic. Just by carrying out literature review, right, you can establish a solid background for your future research investigation. Okay. Another one is to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the research carried out. Okay. Now, another one here is, okay, to discover how your research project is related to the work of others. That is before your research, okay? Right? Because before you carry out research, you do not know anything about the topic, although you are interested in that topic. Even if you know it's just a tip of the iceberg, that's why, right? That's why by carrying out the literature review, you understand what is currently known, what has been established, and that will help you provide a solid, help you build a solid background for your research investigation, okay? And you also discover how your research project is related to the work of others, in the sense that whether you are repeating the research but in a different context or something like that. Now, why a literature review? Now, when you are writing your thesis, in your literature review section, this is really important. Listen to me. Number one, to contextualize the research chosen. Contextualize means you situate your research in the bigger picture of that area, okay? To determine how the research that you propose or you conducted fit into a larger picture of research. And you want to provide or offer an overview of significant literature published on that topic that you are conducting research, okay? Or you would like to demonstrate, right, that you have an understanding of what has and has not been investigated, so that you identify the gap. Plus, when identifying the gap, you also justify or explain how significant your research is with reference to previous research. Okay, that is the purpose or reason why we need to conduct the literature review. Okay, not only identifying the gap, right? You need to show, you contextualize or you situate your research within the bigger picture, and you can say, what has been done and what has not been done, hence identifying the gap. And right, you are saying that you are going to fill that gap, hence justify the significance of your research. Okay, that is why you conduct the literature review. Next slide, please. Now, different types of literature review. I will just go through it very quickly. The first one is argumentative literature review. The purpose here is is kind of selective review of literature to support or refute an argument or deeply embedded assumption or established philosophical problem. Before, I think there are kind of argumentative, you can say, research on contrastive analysis, which is outdated. People think this outdated, but still useful. I would not like to go into that discussion, okay, here. Now, another one is integrative literature review. This is the most common literature review type because it reviews, okay, critique and synthesizes representative literature. That means literature related to your topic in an integrated way to generate new frameworks and perspective. Okay, this is the purpose. And another one is historical literature review. Places one research in a historical context. In my case, for example, when I did my wrote my Bazamali, I did that dissertation. I put my research in a historical context. How important is Bazamali in the marine time, something like that. Okay, review historical inception and evolution of an issue, concept, theory, or phenomenon. Okay, now some of the literature review can be methodological. Why? Because maybe you would like, in your research, you would like to, you can say, come up with the new methods of analysis. In such a case, you may want, in your literature review, you may want to review methods of analysis used in carrying out this more or less the same research, okay, in the past, something like that, so that you identify, their strengths and weaknesses, and you are going to say that you're going to, you can say, develop or propose a new methods of analysis, for example. Another one here is systematic literature review that is more primarily used in clinical medicine and allied health fields. Okay, now in that case, what it does is deliberately document, critically evaluate, and summarize scientifically all research about a clearly defined research problem. Because I'm not from the medical field, and I think I have included some examples, but let's move to the next one. Theoretical one. All right. Okay, sorry. Establish existing theory, their relationship, to what degree they have been investigated, and to develop new hypotheses to test. Okay. For those who come up with new element, for example, whenever we talk about PCK, teacher's professional knowledge package, right? It started with only very limited number of elements or component in PCK. But once, with the advancement of technology and things like, they also include the knowledge of teachers, I mean, the technical knowledge of teachers as part of the PCK, right? But when they come up with new components, they normally did that kind of literature review, establish existing theory, their relationship, and to what degree they have been investigated, and right, everything. But the purpose is to highlight irrelevance or inadequacy of current theories or framework to explain current research problem. I think I explained to you hopefully clearly for each type of literature review. Now let's move to how we can develop a literature review. Okay, the first one is problem formulation. Okay, what does it mean? Which topic or field is being examined, and what are its component issues? Okay, just now when I talk about parental involvement, for example, right? And after that, we have the literature search, finding materials relevant to the subject being explored. And after that, we have data evaluation, determining which literature makes a significant contribution to the understanding of the topic. Because you need to include, you cannot include everything. So you need to determine which literature to choose. Okay, then the next one here is interpretation. The next step, analysis and interpretation, whereby you discuss the finding and conclusion of the, you can say, pertinent literature. Okay, that is how we develop a literature review. You need to formulate the problem and do the literature search. Okay, now, how do we search it? Okay, I have tips. Okay, Now, I would like you to do it at the same time. First one is you formulate your research topic first, even if it's in a general way to generate keywords. For example, just now when I talk about parental involvement, for example, think about all these and come up with the keywords, right? Come up with the keywords in that sense. Even just now when you talk about parental involvement or blended learning or online learning, for example, the first keyword can be online learning, right? Now, in that case, what you can do is that online learning, use the keyword online learning and look for it, okay? Now, after you generate the keywords, use the keywords to look for works related to your area. For example, if I say that CEO's pay and farm performance, for example, this is the topic that you are interested in, then in that case, farm performance or company performance one, right? One is the one keyword. And for example, CEO payment or pay would be another keyword, for example. But progressive taxation and macroeconomic stability, right? Looking at it, you may want to identify some of the keywords, okay? I just try to give some example only. The next slide, please. Now, here, where and how do I start? Books in the library, scholarly peer review articles, professional publications, policy papers. For example, if you are looking at, you can say English language use in Southeast Asia, for example, you may want to look at the language policy of, Southeast Asian countries. Okay, what is their first language? Why they have that first language, etc. Right? Newspapers as well, because this is where you can see different attitudes of people towards that language. And government reports, consultant reports, newspaper, magazine, industry report to understand the participant and context of your study. That is where you can get the, you can say, hard copy in your library. Another one is that now you guys are all very lucky because you can also use online search such as Google Scholar. And I have already given you the list of the online spaces. The first one is Scholar Bank NUS.edu.sg, because for NUS, I think for me, my dissertation is I think open. That means you can access each and every chapter. Some they have given limited access. Okay, now we have others. Okay, look at it. All these are decent online places where you can get these. Okay, now next, now we have activity. Think about the research topic that you are interested in and just try to formulate keywords. Okay, now can you find some article using the keyword? You can use your handphone to look for the articles. Okay, use your keywords, or after this seminar you can also do that. Think about the research topic that you're interested in and just trying to formulate some keywords, okay? Even if you can get 2-3 keywords, you can still find quite a lot of articles using the sources that I gave you. At the end of this session, we're going to share with you the PDF of these slides, okay? The next slide now. Okay, using keywords and you try, you look for it. Okay, now you look for it and you look for the relevant articles. Now, here, now, when you read it in reality, this is the difficulty that we have. I had that same difficulty when I started even working for my, I think, postgraduate diploma in ELD, because we were asked to do submit assignment and things like that. We need to carry out some kind of minor research. Okay. Now, starting with acknowledgement, right? And then I finished reading this paper, and it only took something all day. It took me all day to read one paper because academic writing is very difficult to read. And someone asks you, what is it about? I was supposed to pay attention. Okay, this is what happened with all of us. Okay. Now, what happened is that finding a new article, whether it's relevant, sometimes, right, you may find some of the articles showing that someone has already carried out. Okay. Research that you would like to do. Okay. These are the problems. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, now here in this case, when you are reading relevant works, that is where I think we have the problem. Because you know that starting from acknowledgement, people think that you need to read everything. Okay, now how do we read it? In order for you to decide whether that article or study is relevant to your topic, the first thing, don't read the whole thing. First start with the title. Because you still remember the title reflect the topic. Yes or no? That's why look at the topic, title, and see whether it's related to your topic. If it's not, okay, forget about it. But remember, whenever you have already downloaded the articles and everything, keep everything. But you need to sort out and put it in the different folders, okay? If the title is relevant, move to abstract. Why? Abstract is the miniature of your whole thesis, the whole research article or dissertation if they write it properly. Okay, so I read the abstract because it provides what is it about, what is the research question, or what are the research questions that they try to answer, the methodology used, and important findings. But of course, with the limitation of words, 150 words or some 50 words. Okay, now when you read abstract, some researcher write following the template, but it doesn't include it include only very big information. You do not know whether it's really relevant. You would like to make sure it is relevant, then go to introduction. As an abstract introduction is also the miniature of the whole thesis itself, but of course, right, that is devoted to one whole chapter. Compared to abstract, you have a better chance of looking at it to determine whether it's relevant. Okay, let's say if you think that introduction shows very relevant, right? But sometimes, even if you think that introduction seem to be relevant, it is not so. That's why what you need to do is you look at the findings and conclusion. Okay, this is how you read. Findings, conclusion, when you read that, this is when you can decide whether it is relevant. If you think that it's relevant, continue looking, not
Well, it seems that the internet connection has dropped on the side of the speaker. Can you wait for a while? We are going to investigate what is happening here, and I'm sure she will be back once the internet connection is good.
I'm in now because it's muted.
Thank you.
Because the connection was cut off suddenly. But yeah, okay, I think I better stop here so that I will leave time for the questions. Right? 8:41 already. Would you like me to continue?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we can have the question and answer session, even though I think it's not much because actually it's enough that I think which part of the you can say literature you can read first.
So teachers, participants, it's time for us to make comments and questions here. You can write down your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hands first, and you can, okay, we will call out your name, and you can, okay, take turns, and you can ask questions. Yes, okay, here is one question. It is
Okay.
how to deal with AI in solving a research question. That's one.
Okay.
AI.
You can use AI, but the thing is that make sure I learned from my son because I haven't played around with that. Okay. But based on my son's experience, younger son experience, what he did was he had some input. But what is more important is that you need to ask appropriate question to AI. So when you provide the input, then AI will generate appropriate research question. It's really very focused at the same time. You can say, yeah, it's really a working, you can say research question, but you need to provide the correct input. Okay, Harry is raising his hand.
Thank you. Okay, let me read out the questions here. Okay, so Harry, can you please wait for a while? Okay, here one more question in the chat box. May I get tools or templates for literature review? Are there any tools and templates for literature review, teacher?
At least it's not for the literature review, but recording the literature review that you have read, because I'm going to include that in the next on next Saturday. You know, one is again, do you still remember when I talk about chapter structure and things like that? You know, it is the way that you organize, right? It depends on your research topic and what people have done in that area. But at least we have the tools that we can use to record the literature that you have read. Because the problem here is that normally after we had read, we totally forget about it. It seems like we have that kind of understanding, but at the end of the day, when you prepare to write literature review, it seems like there is nothing left in your brain. So what you need to do is you need to record what you have read. In the next session, I'm going to provide the, as you can say, literature review matrix using a Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. Okay, and also annotated bibliography, so that it is there for you. Then you can write a literature review looking at all these patterns. Okay, I hope that I answer the questions.
Thank you, teacher. I think I will give the opportunity to Harry. Can you ask your questions now? And later I will read more questions from the chat.
Okay.
Harry?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, teacher. So my question will be there. What some kind of questions should be included in conducting research related with gender equality? Because I'm trying to write a research paper, gender equality to satisfy their scholarship committee. Yeah. So what about your suggestions and people to write about their to write a scholarship like a gender equality? Yeah. What kind of questions? Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Now, as I mentioned to you when we talk about research proposal, right? For all the elements, right, major elements in your, you can say, proposal, show that, right, it is necessary to carry out that research. It's worth exploring. Your research question is worth exploring. How do you give the evidence? Through the literature review. and through the practical context. For example, I will give you one example. I have already included in the slide, but let me just give the explanation very quickly. For example, you are interested in online learning, for example, right? But the area is quite wide. Now, when you look at it here, the practical issue in online learning is that once we start online learning, people register a lot, but completion rate is very low. Okay, so in that case, the main issue here is unsatisfactory rate of completion. Okay, so you would like to find out, why there is a kind of unsatisfactory completion rate. Okay, so in that case, what you need to do is you look for the literature. You look for the literature, what people have been done with regard to online learning, right? Whether they, some people look at the teachers' professional development or PCK. Some look at the tools that people use in online learning. Some people look at student performance. Some study look at the completion rate. If no one has done with regard to completion rate, then, right, this is really important because, each and every institution has to answer the Ministry of Education if the completion rate is very low. Okay. Now, another one is that, let's say, even if people have done that, because we have the online learning during the COVID time for the secondary education, for example, right? In the university setting, we have undergraduate study and postgraduate studies. Okay. If research has been carried out in the postgraduate studies, for example, then if you are working on undergraduate study, it shows the gap. Okay, that's why you need to provide the evidence why researchers were doing it. And also, right, in the methodology session, and as I mentioned to you, timeline and everything, right? A research question, even if it is not a quality one, but as long as it shows some strength, right? And your methodology, just by showing, including literature review to provide the evidence the research is needed in this area. And methodology is not fixed in stone, okay? But the thing is, at least through the research methodology session, if you can just show that you have knowledge of, even if it's not in depth, some knowledge of methodology to be able to carry out the research and the timeline, everything. Show that your work, your research, proposed research is workable and is needed in the industry, etc. You will definitely be given the proposal. But one thing that I would like to suggest you, it happened to me before. Because actually the thing is that if you're applying for that university, look at the, you can say, teacher's background, lecture, because even if your research is really good, proposed research, if there is no one to supervise you, you cannot get the scholarship. Okay, with my PhD study, initially what I had proposed is, one is to look at the Bazamali features, and I would, as teacher, I would like to apply it to the teaching. But the thing is that NUS, what happened is that at that time, since that time, the NUS is oriented towards linguistic, and NTU is oriented towards applied linguistic. So what does it mean? My second part of the research, application to teaching, there is no one to supervise me. That's why they asked me to change and drop that application part. Okay, so what I did was, yes, I followed their, you can say, advice. That's how I got my scholarship. Now, one thing that I would also like to suggest you, that you may want to, let's say, look at the list of the lecturer and look at the area of research. If one lecturer is, let's say, in the same, if they have more or less the same research interest that you have, what you can do is you have a kind of draft research proposal and you introduce yourself to that lecturer, and you are interested in that, and is there any kind of advice that you can get, and you can send your draft whatever it is, and get the kind of feedback. For me, what I did was I met one lecturer from NUS at that time when I was in Brunei. Then, after that, I braved myself. I wrote to that lecturer and I said I have written the proposal before I finished my ME, because my supervisor said that, I became rested after finishing and he didn't allow me to submit because he would like me to enjoy my scholarship. Okay, anyway, that's why he asked me to apply for the scholarship. So I prepared the proposal, and then what I did was I contacted that lecturer and asked for his advice. Okay, and I think he gave me feedback, but it's in bullet points only in his reply to my email. But it is very helpful. Looking at this feedback, I fixed my proposal. Okay, so very useful input as well. So in that case, after you have written the research proposal, you might want to get the, as you can say, feedback from someone that you can contact. I hope that I answer your question, Harry.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Teacher, thank you. I have already clearly catch up your answer. Thank you, teacher. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are some interesting questions in the chat box. May I read out some of them? One
Yeah.
question is, I may not be able to read out all the questions, but don't worry, you have the evaluation sheet, evaluation form. There you can write out the questions, and the speaker will review them during the week, and we get back to you in the next week before the session starts. You may be able to deal with your questions that time next week. So the question now here we have is, how do we have our voice in the literature review without being sounding passive?
Okay. Your stand, right? Yes, that is the main issue when we are writing a literature review. Because when you review, you indicate other people's standpoint. But there are cases that you need to voice out your stance as well. How do we do that? Using language. Using language, and I'm going to include that in my next Saturday seminar. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, this question I think you are going to deal with later. How do I do ethical contact for the research process?
Yeah, I think I'm not quite sure whether I include that with the ethical concern. I will give you example. Okay. When my son carried out research, elder son carried out research on the autism kids, okay? Because autism kids do not have the social skill. That's why he would like to create a platform, okay? He would like to create a platform where he uses storytelling, using the cartoons to train the social skills for these autism kids. So he's using the participants are from that special school near our university. But the thing here is that the participants, you can say the platform and the cartoon itself is created by him. But the thing here is that he needs to check and get the data from the teachers of these children, and also the children, especially with the children, they are underage. That's why there is a problem with the ethics. Okay, underage kids. Now, what do we do now? One is, because actually the thing is that you are carrying out research not in the public area, but in a specific school. So you need to get the permission from the school principal, the first one. So that's why I think here in this case, you will need two documents. Okay, one is research information statement. Another one is concept letter. Okay, for each participant. Now, first thing, you need to get the approval from the, you can say, school principal. In your research information statement, you state what your research is about. Okay, what are the procedure involved, who will be involved, and what are the advantages, what are the benefits that the school can get, and what are the benefits that the research community can get, for example. Okay, I'm just trying to give very, okay, that is the research information statement. Another one is concept, right? So in that case, you need to have kind of checklist and ask the, you can say, participant or school to have a kind of click and sign and write down the name. Okay, that is one way to get, for example, you're going to do this then, and I allow or I give the consent to for him to conduct the research, for example, right? That document need to include the, you can say, main investigator, the supervisor, main supervisor as the main investigator, and the researcher, student as the researcher. Okay, that is for the school. After getting the approval, what they need to get is the student, right? Student are underage. That's why he need to get the approval from or the consent from the parents. So again, we always need two documents. One is research information statement, indicate them what they need to do in order to be able to participate in the research. Okay. Now another one is consent form where they sign. Okay. Now this is the procedure, but the thing here is that in the research information statement, you need to state very clearly that the participant it's kind of voluntary, voluntary. You cannot force them. That's why they voluntarily join this, participate in this research, etc. Okay. But anyway, now another one is that in your research procedure itself, is that you need to show the confidentiality, assurance of the confidentiality of the personal information. How do you do that? The first one is whenever you report the research finding, instead of putting down their names, what you need to do is you need to use the pseudonym. That means participant A, participant B. In my son's case, they were using C, right? Student, right? C1, C2, S1, S2, S3, something like that. If it's teacher T1, T2, T3, that's why no one can identify who that teacher is, who that child is. Okay? To make sure the security and confidentiality. Okay? These procedures need to be clearly clarified or articulated in the research methodology section. Okay? I think I can just give very brief one. I hope that I didn't confuse you guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's very clear. I will take one question from the chat box, and later I will address one person from the audience. So the question here in the chat box is, at what point can we consider a literature review as obsolete in the context of research? What criteria or indicators suggest that a review of existing literature may no longer adequately inform or contribute to current understanding with?
Okay. Now this can happen. Okay. This can happen in that sense. Some of the research, right? You must remember that when we include the literature related to the you can say topic, it must be current. What does it mean? Let's say if you carry out research in 2024, right? People will say that, let's say, one should be, let's say if it's 2024, your relevant research should not be earlier than, let's say, 6 years. That means 2018, for example. Even if we say so, there are some authority in the fields which carry out research long ago. For example, when we talk about PCK, right, of the teacher's knowledge, professional knowledge, or whatever we say, the first definition is developed in 1972. It's long ago, but we still need to include that. Okay? So I think, but why do we have recent research? There must be a question. It's a kind of problem again. because it's not relevant to the current world anymore. Or people might think that we don't need to do any kind of research. Something is wrong. So in that case, we need to think twice whether we should take that research as well. Okay? I hope this is the requirement. That's why whenever your thesis is sent to the examiner, they'll look at the literature review and it's, you know, if you finish your thesis by 2000, let's say 27, right? When you start working on the literature review, okay, you include that. But even before you submit your thesis for examination, you need to include all relevant literature. Let's say if it is 2027, for me, when I submitted my thesis in 2006, I also include the last, you can say, literature published in 2005 December, something like that. Whatever you can say, recent literature, I include that to show that I am aware of such development in the field. Okay, that is the requirement. Okay.
Thank you. Because the time is running short, I will call up the participants who have raised their hands among the participants. So, firstly, teacher No Chip Wei Wei, can you please ask your questions quite quick and short and sweet?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Are you still there with us?
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, teacher.
Okay, thank you. So, in some like website or like some educational website, when we want to take the reference, they don't provide like the author name, only some kind of like their organization name. So, like in citation, should we use the organization name, or like we just need to go like no? I just want to confirm that one. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. With regard to, you can say citation, right? Let's say if you are using the, yes, some website offer that. That's why you can use the, you can say standard citation. Let's say if you are using APA. APA in the website, they list okay how you can cite the book chapters, journal articles, or online sources. Okay, so it include all the details. Let's say there are cases that I also use that, for example, when I write the article on the online learning, okay, blended learning or whatever. What I look at is the, I think, report from UNICEF and things like that. I can't remember. I think quality assurance, for example. Yeah, when I was working on the quality assurance paper, what I have to do is that even though I understand about the quality assurance in Malaysia and Australia, for example, I would like to make sure this organization definition and things like that. What I did was I look at the report, right? UNICEF report on quality assurance and all the definition and everything. So, but the thing here is that the good thing about UNICEF is that the report, they have the kind of annual report and they have the series number and everything. So even if you manage to get it online, what you can do is that they publish, right, the hard copies and soft copy, but you can just use that reference from that, you know, they have that years of publication and everything, the names of the, you know, the title of the publication and the authors as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rita. And I'm sorry, this is going to be the last question. And I see that teacher Thierry has raised your hand. Teacher Thierry, can you please have your mic on and ask your questions?
Yes. So my question is about the research proposal. I was like, I'm a researcher working in environmental migration, and my question is like, for the research proposal, research design and research methods, what is more important? It's like when you do the research design and then when you present about the research method, and when you go for the field work, and then you didn't make it well, and then when your results came up, and then it didn't reach your goal. Oh, that's all what I have in my problem about this kind of things. So like, what is more important, research design or research methods to write in your proposal? Because I'm planning my PhD thesis, PhD proposal in 2 months. That's my question.
Okay, for the research design, I think what I can do, it is not possible for me to explain at one go, because you need to know the differences between research design, methodology, and method itself. So I think I will try my best to answer that question when I talk about writing methodology. Will that be okay with you, Teacher Thierry?
Yeah, sure.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
Okay, because actually the thing here is if I explain it right now, it might confuse you. I think I would like to explain it within the context so that it's easier. Okay. Any more questions? I think, is it the last question?
I
Or-
think because it's already 8 minutes past 9, so I think we better call it a day. And those who haven't got their questions answered, don't worry, you can write your questions in the evaluation form. There is a space for you to write your questions there, so the speaker will have time to review your questions during the week. And by next week, before we start the actual session, she might deal with some of the questions which are of the same topic. Okay, and so for this, I think I better call it a day and say thank you to our speaker. Today we learned a lot, and it's really rich. And of course, I learned new ideas as well. And regarding writing literature review, and the takeaway for me today is including the timeline. I think it is very useful for all of us, because when we write thesis proposals and thesis outline, sometimes we forget the timeline. So including the timeline, it may be small for many people, but it is very useful for me, people like me, who are always doing things in the last minute. So this is very useful for me. And another thing is how to write paragraphs very clearly, using the language to make the language coherent, cohesive and coherence, the main ideas and the supporting evidence, and they are really useful for me. But there are quite a lot of things. There are small little things that I remember now. So I hope that many of you have got lots of things that you have learned from today's session. So let's call it a day, and thank you so very much. And please do join us next week. See you all, and have a good week.
Thank you very much for your kind words.